4 now, and we've got a couple of women here. One is quite poor, and one's quite rich, and I think it's kind of an interesting contrast. Basically, it's showing that Elisha doesn't really care about status, and I don't think these women do either, really. They don't seem to in this. And I think it's a great story about these women and great faith that they have. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, and remember what I said, the sons of the prophets were usually people who followed the prophet around, that kind of like members of the church and following the prophet. That's how I look at it, and that's how it seems to read in these things. So this is a certain woman that was of faith. And she's a wife of a son of a prophet unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant, my husband, is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take my sons to be bondmen. So she has no way of paying, and they're going to be bondmen. And this seems like, wow, that's quite hard. Remember that even up until the American colonies, when they're colonizing America, many people came over to America with a sort of, I forget what they called it now. They didn't call it bondmen, but they called it a servitude that they had to pay off, and they were servants to someone until it was paid off. And this is sort of the thing that they're doing here, is she has to give her sons to this person because they owed the money. And I think that's what the right-hand side, the woman's son going to be sold as slaves, and it was the way it was back then. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house save a pot of oil. Then he said, Go borrow the vessels abroad of thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. It doesn't tell how many. He just says, do it. Do as many as you can get. Whatever vessels you can get them. And that leaves her a chance to do what she needs to do. Sometimes as we get a calling in the church, and sometimes they just say, go and do it. And you get some instructions on what you need to do, but sometimes they leave it quite open to you to figure out how you're going to do the rest of it. And that's what it feels like here. He says, just make sure you get that, and get as many vessels as you can, however many you want to get, you can get. Then when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour into those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So when she went from him, and shut the door upon her, and upon her sons who brought the vessels to her, she poured out. And it came to pass that the vessels were full. And she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. In other words, it stopped at that point. It didn't keep like overflowing or anything. It filled up all the vessels. We don't know how many, but is enough. And she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go and sell the oil and pay thy debt, and live, and thou and thy children of the rest. So they had enough oil to sell and pay the debt, but also enough oil to continue living. So they sell the oil, they have enough to live off as well. I think that's an amazing thing. She was able to get what she needed, and God didn't tell her right away. She just lived the way that she should. She knew that Elisha was a prophet. Obviously, her own husband was what was called sons of the prophets. Basically, was following Elisha anyway, and they knew he was a prophet, and did not doubt. Just did what he asked. He didn't say, "Oh, they're all going to be filled up." But as soon as the miracle came, they recognized it as a miracle, and they didn't doubt it. And they continued until it was all full, and they knew it was from God, and they were able to live that way. And it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a great woman. So when it says it fell on a day, it means Elisha passed there at a certain time regularly. Maybe he was going towards another place on a regular basis, and there was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that oft, as he passed by, he turned in hither to eat bread. I find it interesting with this. We often think that women in the past were shy, or I don't know the right word. They just did what they were told. This woman obviously was a great woman, not only probably in her community, but in herself. She had confidence, and she did what she did. She had a good marriage as well. And she said unto her husband, "Behold, now I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passes by us continually." She understands the Spirit. He seems to never worry about what she asks him to do, and just does it. I think partly because he also believes that he's a man of God. They talk, they do things together, and he seems to be there 100% for her. Let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. And it shall be, when he cometh to us, he shall turn in hither. And it fell on a day that he came hither, and he turned into the chamber, and lay there. And he said unto Gazi the servant, Call the Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him, and he said unto him, Say now unto her, Behold, thou hast been careful for us with this care. What is to be done for thee? Wouldst thou be spoken for to the king, or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among my own people. Saying, wait, I don't need all the riches and the fame that might come if I was to have company with the king. I don't want to be in the king's court. I don't want to be part of that. I just want to live here in Shunem. That's what I want to do. I'm happy. I'm a happy person. I'm fine where I am. And he said, what then is to be done for her? And Gazi said, Verily she hath no child, and her husband is old. She has not complained at all about it. Now, some of the people we've met that haven't had children, and this seems to be the one miracle that keeps coming about in the Old Testament, is women who don't have children, and that they feel they should, and they're basically past the age. One difference with her is she's not looking for children. She's learned to be happy with where she is. She's happy with her husband and her life. But there must be an ache in her heart. I think there's an ache in her heart. And he call her, and he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, meaning you're kind of getting on, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, nay, my lord, thou, a man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaiden. She's reminding him, I haven't had children all these years. I don't think it's going to happen. So you shouldn't lie to me like that. You know, I've had my hopes dashed before. I'm happy where I am because I don't hope for that thing which I can't have. And the woman conceived and bare a son at that season. And Elisha said unto her, according to the time of life. So she does get a son, and she's even more happy. And when the child was grown, so this is years go by, and it must be that all this time Elisha goes and sees her and the family. It must be really interesting. And it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers, and he said to his father, my head, and he said to the lad, carry him to his mother. And then when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon, and then he died. Really quick, just like, oh, what? Something happened. It was quick, and it was a horrible thing that went. And could you imagine how she must feel? She has had such happiness through him, even though she wasn't expecting it, and now it's gone again. And she went up and laid on the bed of the man of God and shut the door upon him and went out. Basically laid him on the bed, laid her son in the spare room, basically. And she called unto her husband and said, send me, I pray thee, one of the young men and one of the asses, that I may turn to the man of God and come again. Notice how, again, she is a strong woman. She says what she wants to do, and her husband goes, yes, dear. I don't think he's saying it in a way that's like, okay, whatever you want, but he trusts her. They have such a good trust in this relationship. And he said, wherefore wilt thou go to him today? It is neither moon nor Sabbath. And she said, it shall be well. He doesn't explain exactly why she's going to him. Obviously, they do some worship on certain days, and that's what they're used to doing. But it's like saying, well, why are you going to the chapel today? Because it's not Sunday, you know. She saddled thine ass and said unto her servant, drive and go forward, slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee, saying, go as fast as you can. So when she went and came to the man of God to Mount Carmel, and we've heard about the things on Mount Carmel. Obviously, he spends time there now that it's been purged of Baal. And when the man of God saw her afar off, he said to Gehazi his servant, behold, yonder is the Shunammite. Run now, I pray thee, and meet her, and say unto her, is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with thy child? And she answered, it is well. Interesting, she answered that when obviously the child isn't well, but maybe she had a certain faith in that. Does she know that he's going to be, that her son might live? I don't know that, but maybe she realizes that whatever happens, she will still believe in God. And when she came to the man of God to the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gazi came near to thrust her away, and the man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her. I haven't looked at the name Gehazi. Gazi. Is what I'm saying. And the Lord, for her soul is vexed within her. So he sees it. Gazi just thinks, well, why is she doing this? She says it's well, and then she breaks down, basically. Have you ever had somebody that's just kind of like, yeah, everything's fine. Oh, really, it's not. I feel that that's what's happening here. And the Lord hath hid it from me, and hath not told me. So the Lord's not just saying, oh, you know exactly what's going on. She needs to stop being so strong for a second and tell him what's happening. She said, did I desire a son of my Lord? And he said, and did I say, do not deceive me? Basically saying, I didn't actually ask for this. I learned to love this little son of mine. From the moment I found out I was pregnant, and now he's gone, and I feel like I didn't ask for you to give me this wonderful blessing. I said, do not deceive me. And now he's gone again? I didn't think this was supposed to happen. Then he said to Gazi, gird up thy loins, and take thy staff in thine hand, and go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not, and if thou salute thee, answer him not again, and lay thy staff upon the face of the child. He's saying, get there right now. Don't stop for anything. Just get there. And the woman of the child said, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And he arose and followed her. Have we heard those words before? I will not leave thee. Just a couple of chapters before, when Elijah said, stay here to Elisha, Elisha said, I will not leave thee. Do you think that might have rang in his ears when she said that? And maybe that's why he said, I'm going to go. And Gazi passed on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child, but there was neither voice nor hearing. Wherefore he went again to meet them, and told them, saying, the child is not awaked. And Elisha was come into the house. Behold, the child was dead, and laid upon his bed. And he went therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto the Lord. And he went up, and laid upon the child, and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands, and stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. I'm not sure what the affliction was. We don't have anything. But whatever it was, and whatever Elisha did, the Lord blessed this child. You never hear of anybody else. It's not like a regular occurrence to do that. But he felt that that's what needed to be done, and he did it. Then he turned and walked into the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. So he did it twice before the child woke. And he called Gazi and said, call this Shunammite. So he called her, and when she was come in unto him, he said, Take up thy son. And she went in and fell at his feet, and bowed herself to the ground, and took up her son, and went out. Can you see that love she has, and what he has for this family? And Elisha came again to go, and now we're going another direction here. We've had two stories about women and their faith. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land, meaning a drought. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, and he said unto his servant, Set a great pot and seethed pottage for the sons of the prophets. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds, his lap full, and came and shredded them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. He didn't know what he'd gathered. He just thought that looked good. And he poured out for the men to eat. And it came to pass that they were eating the pottage. They cried out and said, Thou men, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. I have to laugh because I just feel like this guy thought, hey, this is going to be really great. They get it and it's like, ugh, this is horrible. There's death in this pot. I dare you to say that next time you eat something that you don't like from your whoever cooks the meal. There's death in this pot. But he said, then bring meal and cast it into the pot. And he said, pour out for the people, and that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot. So he just made it taste better. It sounds like, there came a man from Baal. The reason why it's in there, I guess, is that it does seem like a miracle a little bit. To me, it just sounds like he seasoned it properly or something, put some more meal in it, and it just made it taste better. Either way, it's an interesting story to have in there. And there came a man from Baal Shalisha, and brought a man of God the bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn, and husks thereof. And he said, Give unto the people that they may eat. And the servitor said, What should I set this before 100 men? And he said again, Give to the people that they may eat, for thus the Lord saith the Lord, they shall eat and shall leave thereof. Basically, he's saying, I don't have enough to feed everyone. So he set it before them, and they did eat, and left thereof, according to the word of the Lord. What miracles can you see in this that Jesus Christ did? The miracle of the oil, could that be a little bit compared maybe to, there's a few things that you could think of in there, but I think of the wedding feast when they ran out of wine and Jesus made water into wine. And with this raising of the son of the Shunammite woman, how the Lord raised the son of the widow, and this feeding the these people, like feeding the 5,000 and the 2,000. That's what I see out of this. And I hope you can see the things of the Lord, examples of the Lord in these scriptures. And as we continue to see other miracles that Elisha does, can we see the Savior in it?